Welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to display the EU consent screen for Google Admobs, any type of Google ads inside your Godot game engine. So I have created an Android plugin for it and I will show you the output for it as well. So currently, as you can see, the app is installing, and for if any user is displaying in EU countries, you have to display that consent form to the user. Otherwise you won't get ad revenue for it, and the user needs to accept the consent form, then only you can display those ads for it as well. So as you can see, the app is installing, and I wanted to show it to you guys from the start because there are little tricks with this Admob consent screen. So yeah, hopefully it should install anytime now. So yeah, the app has installed. Now I have shown two buttons, one to show the ad and one in case the consent is already rejected. So as soon as the app is displayed, I am displaying the consent form. Now the displaying of the consent form is an asynchronous operation, so it might take a little bit of time. Other thing which I want to tell you is I don't stay in EU countries, I stay in Asia, but for development purpose it is possible to show the consent form. So here you can see, even though if you don't stay in EU countries, you can display the EU countries consent form, but we have to add a little bit of debug or development or testing settings, which I will show you in a bit. So here you can see I have this form created, and we have to create this form on the Google Admob side, which I will show you in a bit. But suppose if the user has given his consent, so I will click on consent, and once the user gives a consent, the Admob is initialized, and it also does take a little bit of time. So here you can see I'm displaying a toast message. Okay, the ad has been loaded. Now if I click on show ad, the user will be able to see this interstitial ad. Now this can be any type of ad. Okay, it can be a banner ad, or it can be interstitial ad, or a native ad, whatever. Now what I'm doing is that I'm uninstalling the application. What I'll do is I will just I will reinstall the application, and I will make sure I do not give the consent in the first go itself. Then I will show you how it plays out, how all things plays out. So I'm reinstalling the application. Hopefully any time now. Okay, so the app has been installed. Yeah, I'm running in debug or development settings, that's why it is taking some time to load. Otherwise in release mode I think it would be much faster, and also my Android device is pretty cheap. Now hopefully we'll see the consent form. Okay, so the consent form is displayed. Now what I'll do is I will click on do not consent. So I haven't given the consent. Now the ad will fail to load. So here you can see I am displaying a toast message. If you want, you can send this message to your Godot side as well. I have also showed you like a number of times how to send data from the Android plugin side to the Godot side using signals. So if you want, you can watch any of my tutorial for that. Now what I'll do is I will click on this. So suppose you want to ask the user again to consent the form, to give his consent to that EU form, so that only after that he will be able to use an app or some feature. Okay, something like that. So what I'll do, I will click on this show consent form. If the user directly clicks on show ad button, you can show a pop-up message saying that okay, you need to accept the consent form, then only you can see an ad. Okay, something like that, or you can use a feature. So I will just click on show consent form. Okay, now I will click on consent. Now once I give a consent, it will again initialize my Google mobile ads SDK. So once it has been initialized, okay, then I'll click on show ad, and then it works properly. So this is what it is. Now next I will show, let's head to Google Admob, and I will show you how to create this EU policy as well as production ad units for your app. But in this, while testing purposes, make sure you use test ad units only, don't use production ad units. If you are facing some issues with test ad units, then you might replace it with production ad units and again replace it back with test ad units for testing purposes. First step which we have to do is we have to come to Google Admob. Next so this is for Android, so I will just create an app. So go to apps, add your first app. Android, I have not deployed it to Play Store. I'll just click on continue. I'll just name it as first app, but you can give it a proper name. I'll click on add app, then I'll click on done. And now depending on what ad you are showing, you might want to create an ad unit for it. So in this tutorial I am creating an interstitial ad, so I'll create an ad unit for it. For testing purposes, I will just use the test ad from the Admob documentation, but I'm just showing you how to create production ads as well. So I'll just select interstitial, my interstitial, again give a proper name, okay, and I'll click on create ad unit. Now you can just copy paste this code, copy paste this ad units inside your code. So I'll just click on done for now. Next what you'll have to do is, so I have written all the steps for creating the privacy policy. So click on add privacy policy. So firstly what you will have to do is, you will have to add some privacy policy to your app as well. So maybe some web view or just inside your settings page you can add some privacy policy. So that is very important. So I won't do that in this video, because that is a simple basic thing which you can do it on your own. Then you will have to click on privacy and messaging. Then click create for European regulation. So I'll just click on create. Then we'll click create. Then we'll have to click on get started. So here you as you can see, they have mentioned that add a privacy policy to your app, so you can add that. Here I will just click on get started, then click create a European regulation message. So I'll just click on this, and here if you want, so here you can see this is the setup for it. If you want, you can change it, like the styling you can change it however you want to, the targeting you can change it however you want to, but yeah, I'll keep everything as default. But the important thing is you will have to select your app over here. So that's why I have created my app at the very first time, and I'll select my app. Also here you will have to add some URL, so make sure you add some URL as well. So for now I will just add https:// make sure you add a proper URL, maybe your website URL or your business URL, something like that. Okay, not Google, maybe codingwithnobody.com. Nobody.com. Okay, I'll click on save. I'll also make sure I will click this add unit deployment as well. Do I have to add privacy policy? Okay, add privacy policy in the do not consent, select on. Okay, I'll click on the I'll just make sure, I think the ad unit deployment may be for production purposes, but yeah, for now I'll just keep it as off. I'll click on confirm, then select your app, add privacy policy and do not consent, select on. Okay, so here you will have to select on, then you will have to click publish. So just click publish, click OK. And also one thing to note is that once you, now I will show you later on in the output that how the consent form looks like, but once the user accept a consent, it only lasts for 1 year. That is the important part. So yeah, let's now move on to the demo part. Okay, now coming back to the output. So here what I'm doing is that I'm installing the app first. Now as soon as the app is installed, you will see a consent form, and the consent form does take some time to load. It is not loaded immediately. So yeah, we'll wait some time because it is an asynchronous process. once the consent form loads, now this is only for EU, okay. EU countries, and given that I don't stay in Europe, so I'm stay in Asia, but it is possible for development purpose you show this form just for testing purposes, which I will show you later on how to do that. So first of all, what I'll do is that I will make sure I'll click on this consent button. So I'm giving the developer, okay, do show me ads. So I will click on consent. Now once the user gives a consent, then we are trying to load our ad, which also takes some time. So here you can see I'm displaying a toast message that okay, on ad loaded. Now once I click on show ad, it will show the user the ad. Now what I will do is that I will just uninstall this application again, and I will click on do not consent. Okay, so I will reinstall it. Once I click on do not consent, then like as per the documentation, what it says is that you will have to show a privacy, like inside your settings you need to have a button where in which you will tell the user, okay, you need to accept the privacy policy or the consent form, whatever it is. Okay, so here is the form. Okay, I'll click on do not consent. Now if I try to click on show ad, I'm getting an error message because the ad failed to load. Okay, now instead of showing this toast message, what you can tell the user, you can display a pop-up that okay, you need to accept this consent form first, and redirect him to the settings page, something like that. So I have kept it simple. I'm displaying a toast message, but you can display like a dialogue or a pop-up message that okay, you need to accept the consent form. And once I click on this show, suppose the user is redirected to the settings page or somewhere wherever you feel comfortable, and once he click on the show consent again, then he will see that form again. Now again I will click on do not consent. I'll click on show ad. Okay, same thing again. Now I will click on show consent again, and now I will accept the I will click on the consent button, and again the ad does take some time to load because the consent form was just accepted. And now if I click on show ad, here you can see the ad was loaded. So that's how the process is. See the implementation details for this Google Admob. So first I have written all these steps from the Godot documentation inside this cheat sheet of the sort, and I will quickly go through this. So first what you will have to do is you will have to create an Android project. I'll just close this. You will have to create an Android project. It can be an empty views project or a Jetpack Compose project, doesn't really matter. Once you create the project, what you will have to do is right click over here, new module, select Android library, give it some name as something like my library or whatever. So I have already created this my library, that's why it is showing an error. Give a proper package name, and then click on next and click on finish. Okay, so I have already created this, so I won't create it again. So once you do that, let's see what is the next step. We have to add this implementation details. So at the time of this recording, I'm using Godot 4.2.1, but if you are using higher version, make sure you check Maven Central for this version. Typically it matches with your Godot engine. So I'll just go to my project, then you will have to select the library one in build.gradle.kts. First you have to add this Godot library, then we also have to add this Google Play ad services, as well as this user messaging platform. So this is for displaying the interstitial ad or banner ad or whatever, and this is for displaying the consent form. I will also later on show you the documentation for it as well, but right now just roll with it. Next we have to create this Godot Android plugin file. So if I go to my Kotlin plus Java, here you can see I have created this Godot Android plugin file as per the documentation. I'm extending Godot plugin over here, and here you also have to override this method get plugin name. So my plugin name is just my plugin, but be careful with your plugin name and do remember it, because we will be referencing it in lot other places as well. Also I have created this get plugin signals method as well, just for sending some signals, but if you don't want signals you can ignore it. And these two methods I have created, like show consent, which is which is called on the show consent button, and show ad, which is called on the show ad button. Also all of these things has to be called on the main thread. If you try to use coroutines or background thread, it won't work. Like this is the disadvantage of, I think, Google mobile ads. It makes your app a lot janky, I feel, but yeah, it is what it is. Later on we'll come to all these methods. For now let's just ignore it. So we have created this file. Okay, next inside android manifest.xml. so I'll just go through this as well for right now itself, otherwise I might forget later on. So here we are, first you have to create this separate class. Okay, Google Mobile Ads Consent Manager, and here I have just copy pasted this from the documentation itself, which I will show you in a bit. So first we are taking the consent information, then we are defining an interface definition for a callback to be invoked when consent gathering is complete. Then here we are defining a variable to determine if the app can request ads or not. Then this is helper variable to determine if the privacy option form is required or not, like it is only required for EU countries. Next, here we have defined this gather consent. So if you see over here, as I told you, I live in Asia. I am forcefully making my geographical area to be EU countries. Do not do this in production. You have to comment this entire thing out in production, and also remove this set consent debug settings. Okay, this is only for testing purposes, so that if you live outside Asia, outside European countries, you can quickly test it. Also, you require this test device hash ID. Now for the initial run of this application, keep it as empty. You won't be knowing your test hash ID like beforehand. Once you run your application, like your Godot application, you will have to come to your logcat. You will have to go to plugins, sorry, not plugins. Here you might be seeing something like package:mine. Just remove that, and I think you will just have to search for hash something. I think it is not showing it for me right now because I have closed my app. It is something like test device hash, something like that. Okay, test device. I'm just checking if it's possible to see or not. If not, then you will have to I think it is showing a lot of logs. What other thing which you can do is you will have to take your package name. So this is my plugin package name. So I can do, I think, something like this. Okay, it is not showing me because I don't know why, but once you run the application for the very first time, you should be able to see your hash ID. It will be something like device hash ID something. Just search for hash. You should be able to see it, according to me at least. Okay, wait, what I'll do is I'll try to run the application again. Let's see if I'm able to show it to you guys. If not, then just search for hash ID after the first run, and you should be able to see it, according to me. Anyways, let's continue. So the next thing which you, so here we were over here. So again, this is only for device debug purposes, and once you get the device hash ID, just put it over here. Then we are using this request consent info update to be called on every app launch. Okay, and over here we are using show privacy option forms, so that we can display the option form to user. And here we are instantiating our this Google Mobile Ads Consent Manager, so that we don't have multiple instances of it. Okay, next, if you go to the Godot Android plugin, I have creating this atomic boolean first. Okay, next I have created this Google Mobile Ads Consent Manager variable, and I have also created a helper variable for whether it is loading or not. Okay, is it working? Not sure. Too many hashes, I guess. It should be something like, let me tell you, like I have just ran my application again. Okay, so it should be something like this, test device hash ID. Here you can see they have given this. Okay, so I'll search it something like this. Oh, not over here. We have to search it over here. I don't know why. Maybe because I have already entered the proper hash ID, that's why it is not giving it to me. Add hash ID. Sorry, I don't know why it is not showing it to me. Maybe there were too many logs and it got removed, I guess. Wait, one last try. Otherwise yeah, you can just search for it. No, I don't know why it is not showing, but it will typically show you the hash ID. Yeah, sorry about that. Then here you should enter your plugin name. Then what I have done is that I have overridden this on godot setup completed method. So here we are initializing our add consent manager and gathering the consent. If there is any error, I am just displaying it in a toast message. If you want, you can give it back to the godot side as a signal. And here we are initializing our mobile ad SDK, and here I am checking whether the is privacy option is required or not. If it is not required, what you can do is you can hide that show consent button on godot side. Okay, here I am emitting the signal, but I am not really using it. And here same thing I am doing. I am trying to request our ads. If I am able to request it, I am initializing our mobile ad SDK. Here I have just overridden the get plugin signal, and these are all signals which I have created. Then inside show consent, we are calling the show privacy option method. If there is any error, I am displaying it in a toast message. And once we gather the consent, and if we can request ads, then I am calling the show interstitial ad method, calling the show interstitial method. Otherwise inside show ad also I am calling the show interstitial method. So here you can see I am calling the load ad method as well. So if you remember this load ad method, what I'm trying to do is first I'm checking whether the ad is loaded or not, and then I'm trying to request to load the ad, and this is a test ID. Make sure you replace it with a production ID for later purposes. And here I'm just displaying a toast message in case anything goes wrong. If the ad has properly loaded, then I'm just sending a signal back to the godot side. If you want to immediately show the interstitial ad once the ad has been loaded, you can just call this show interstitial over here. I have called this inside a separate method, but yeah. Now inside show interstitial, I've just added a bunch of callbacks which I have copied it from the documentation, and I'm just calling show of interstitial ad, show the interstitial ad. If not, then we are just loading the ad, and this is the code for initializing our mobile ad SDK. Okay, so that's done. Next, inside android manifest.xml, you will have to add this application tag. Inside this, add this metadata tag. So first this should be your plugin name. So my plugin name is just my plugin, and this should be the package name of your plugin. So if you see over here, you should be able to find your package, and this is the class name. Next, I have added this from the Google Admob documentation. Again, this is a test ID, and I have also added this to metadata tags because this will help us to optimize our ad loading initialization. Okay, so yeah, next let's see what is this step. So next, okay, we have to create these two files. So I will go to Android project, go to my library. Inside that, create a folder called export scripts template. And in that, create a file called export plugin.gd. Now I have just copy pasted this from the documentation. The only thing which you have to be careful about, apart from copying the like this should be your plugin name, and you also have to add this bit of extra method because we are adding some extra dependency in our build.gradle apart from the godot one. So you have to add it over here as well, and over here as well. So that's what I have done. Next, I have created a plugin.cfg file. Again, I have copy pasted everything from the docs. This should be your plugin name, and the description and author you can change it according to what you want. So we are done with this. Next, what you will have to do is open your terminal, go to the root of your Android project. Do not go to your Android library, and you will have to run this command .gradle wassemble. Once you so what you will have to do is you will have to run this command, and once you run this command, go to my Android project over here, and here you will have to go to your library, go to build outputs AR, and here you should be able to see two files, AR files being generated. I have already copied those two files to my godot project, that's why you are not able to see over here. Next, you will have to create a godot project. Inside that, create a folder called add-ons. So here you can see inside that, create another folder with your plugin name. Inside that, create a folder called bin, and inside bin you will have to create two folder, debug and release. Now you will have to copy the debug AR to the debug folder, release AR to the release folder. The AR files are not like shown in the Godot project, like in the Godot engine, but you should be able to find it inside your Explorer once you have copied it. So if you go to my Godot project, add-ons, my plugins, bin, debug, here you can see that I have copied the AR file. But the important thing to note is you will have to refactor your AR file to have your plugin name. So it should be whatever your plugin name -debug.ar. Similarly for release, whatever is your plugin name -release.ar. So change the name. Next you will have to copy these two files inside your plugin folder as well, inside a Godot project. So if you remember, we had created these two files inside our Android plugin, so copy these two files. Next you will have to go to your Godot project, go to project, install Android build template. I have already done that. Then you will have to click on export, you will have to click on add Android. I have already done that. You will have to check this use Gradle build, and depending on what architecture of your Android phone you have, you will have to click that particular architecture. If you don't know, just select all the architecture. Also at the bottom you should be able to see a fix import button. Just click on that, it should fix your import. Next what I have done is also go to project settings, go to plugins, and here you will have to check your plugin name. And here you will have to create a VBox container. This is up to you. I have taken a show consent button and show add button as well, and a label. The label is pretty much useless. And if you see my script, I am initializing our plugin. Now again, this should be your plugin name, and here we are initializing our plugin inside ready, and I have also added our signals to it. And once you call the show consent button, I am calling the show consent method which we have defined on the plugin. Similarly for show add method as well, and here I have added the callback for our signals as well. So yeah, that's it for Android, I think. So we are done with this. Yeah, we are done. Also you will have to go to editor settings and Android your debug key path, as well as I am using Wi-Fi for remote debugging, that's why I have enabled that as well. Okay, and you will also have to add your Android HDK path inside editor settings. So I think that should be it. Now we will go to the documentation just to show it to you as well. So here you can see we have already added this dependency inside our plugin. We added this metadata tag as well. Okay, and if you remember, we were initializing this as well. So if you go over here, go to Android plugin, here you can see we were initializing our ads HDK. Next I will so here if you go to this, it will help you to add these two metadata tags to optimize your loading of Google mobile ads. Next so I'm using interstitial ads, so I will just show you that as well, but you can use banner ads if you want to. So here they have told us to create a variable for this and load this interstitial ad, so we have created that as well. So if you remember, where did it go? So here it is. Okay, same thing. Next we are also doing this callback, and this is how you show it. So we are doing the same thing. We are doing this callback, and we are calling the show method. Now if you go to this UMP platform, so this is where the European consent policy comes into, EU user consent policy. So we have also added this dependency. Next so if you want, you can follow this over here, but what I have did is that I went to this repo, Kotlin repo, and basically I copy pasted this file, Google mobile ads consent manager. Okay, and they also show you how to use that file later on. So yeah, if you want, you can refer this documentation. Also I wanted to show it to you that here you can see they have added this test device hash ID. Okay, so that's how you use it, and here you can force your geography to be inside the EU region. So yeah, this is like this is how they were using this file. Like you don't have to worry about this on create options menu or on option. This is related to native Android development, that won't be useful in Godot. But yeah, that's how. If you are curious, you can read the documentation. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.